All right, this is Max and Kevin with Behind the Bay, and today's guest is Brent Gaither, ex-police officer, and he's got some stories to tell us, I'm sure. But before we get into that, we're going to learn a little bit about Brent and
go from there.
Yeah, pretty much that's it.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit. Where'd you start? Give us from little baby Brent all the way. Like, what do we got? Where does it start?
My father was in the military, and I was born on the Presidio in San Francisco.
Okay.
In 1960. That makes me 65 now. But, anyway, we moved to a town in Northern California called Quincy, California. I lived there for 8 years with them. My father worked for the county at that time. He was a building inspector, electrical inspector for the county. Subsequent to that, he decided he wanted to go to work for the U.S. Forest Service. And the closest to there was Susanville, California. We lived in a little logging community about 20 miles from Susanville. And he commuted to Susanville every day. My mother worked various secretarial style jobs at the same time when we were old enough to watch ourselves. I had a sister, one sibling. And then, of course, being with the Forest Service, every 4 to 5 years, he took a promotion and moved. I literally lived out of boxes most of my juvenile, life. And we moved to a little town called Happy Camp, California.
I know where that is too.
Right.
Okay.
It's not a reform school. It's a real town.
Yeah. You will be happy.
Yeah. Right. I was a minority in that town. There was a large Indian population there. Yeah. And so I learned how to defend myself, there was a fight every day type situation. And I was in many of those little battles. And I did not like this community. My parents lived there for 3.5 years. We moved 5 times while we were there. And then they moved to Gold Beach, took a promotion there. And I went to high school 4 years there and graduated there. Then I went to Oregon State University, wrestled in high school. And then for summer jobs, I had started out working for Coos Forest Protective Association during the summer months and cool. seasonal work. And between that and school, and then I decided, school's not my thing. So I left after about 2 years of credit. And I moved here in late 79. I got into the community in late 79 and went to work for a local stereo store. I don't know, I really want to mention it by name, but it was a big stereo store in a town. We had 5 stereo stores at that time, all selling hi-fi by the pound, when that was big stuff back then. I had some opportunities way up in the Portland area working on tugboats and such. And so I went up there, and you literally lived by the phone in those days because you were on call and you didn't go anywhere. No such thing as cell phones, of course.
Yeah, so you lived by the pager?
We didn't even have pagers.
You're right, pager. Yeah, you're way in the future, bro. We were literally dropping dimes.
Rotary phones?
I don't know. Yes, exactly. And so that opportunity never panned out for me. It's who you know in that business. And a lot of those jobs go to families and friends and things.
Right, gotcha.
So I moved sideways back down here, worked for the Forest Patrol for a while, and then went to work for the stereo store for about 8 years. And then I went into the car business. I was in the car business doing various car dealerships in town. I was a finance insurance manager for car dealerships.
Wow.
I worked in the mortgage business for a little short time. I worked for a title company for a year. And, I just small little jobs and anything I could to, make a living. And by this point, in 82, I'd met my wife and wife to be, and we got married 8 years later. And as of this year, we'll have been together 44 years, and we'll have been married 40 years of it. So
awesome, man.
Yeah.
8 years though.
Yeah,
8 years.
8 years until you got married.
I'm sure she gave you some business about that.
The family did too. So,
Brent's dragging his feet.
He's just using you. You need to dump this guy.
Right. He's working in a stereo store.
Yeah. Oddly enough, she had moved down here in the music business as well. She managed a record store.
Okay.
And I met her the very first day she'd moved down here out on the beach with a Frisbee.
It sounds like the 80s were popping back in the day here.
Yeah,
Music stores, record stores.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I remember back in the day in the 80s. Like, I remember that.
No, you were born in the 90s, sir.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. I saw that in the movie.
All right, you got
I know
me.
you saw that in the movies. So.
Yeah.
No, I met her on the beach with a Frisbee. I wasn't a guy that used to go to bars or anything like that to meet ladies. And I met her and we kind of hit it off, and we've been together ever since. And so we decided to settle here. And after we got married, I had opportunities to go different places, but just living in this community was very comfortable because it was only a couple hours to go skiing, water skiing, and snow skiing, which we did more of back then when we didn't break so easily.
Yeah. Well, if you're an outdoorsy person, I'd say this.
I was going to say, this is a great area
crabbing
for it.
I was so poor, I was as poor as a church mouse when I moved here, and I would go out on the docks, Roseburg docks, and crab when the ships weren't in. The security guys would say, "Hey, yeah, no big deal, come on out."
Oh,
and
nice.
I'd go out and crab, but there comes a point where you are tired of eating crab.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And you look in the freezer and you go, what's for dinner?
My dad would probably disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like crab fritters, crab
whatever.
Crab cakes.
crab everything.
Anything.
Like, I'm sick of it.
So, and then I finally got to a point in my life where I said, I want to do what I want to do for a living instead of what I have to do for a living.
Yeah.
So I took about 7 months and I was unemployed, and we were struggling a little bit. We always kept up with all of our finances and such, but it was just one of those times in your lives where you really got to make that switch. And I had been on a hiring list for the fire department for North Bend for 3 years, and I missed that spot literally by a coin flip. And I kind of wanted to get into firefighting because I had that background in firefighting.
Now, were you volunteering?
No, it wasn't. And in retrospect, that's probably one of the reasons I should have taken that step. And an opening came up at the North Bend Police Department, and I applied there. And after a long hiring process, I was hired there. So, and I spent the remaining of 26 and a half years there.
Yeah.
So I had a good time there.
So I guess I'm kind of curious, just because I like to kind of get into the weeds about stuff. You did a bunch of stuff. What was it in your mind that made you want to do what you wanted to do? At some point, you said, "Hey, I'm going to do this because I want to do it." What happened?
Well, it was a combination of two things. One, when you're firefighting, especially wildland firefighting, your adrenaline's gone.
Yeah.
And it is, when you're 19, 20, that's a young man's game.
Absolutely.
And you're out there and you are battling fire. There's nothing around.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's fun. When you have a good crew who works with you, and it's just a lot of fun. And then my sister, the second part of that equation is my sister who was younger than me by 2 years. She lived in Gold Beach still. She was a parole probation officer when she got out of college, and she was a sheriff's deputy reserve in Curry County, and they offered her a full-time position as a deputy in Curry County, and she was the first female full-time deputy ever in Curry County.
Nice.
And I used to go down in the coast and stay with my parents and ride with her in the evenings and stuff. And I thought, this is me. I just got to do this.
Okay.
And so that kind of answers the second part of your question. After riding with her for years, I thought, there's no way I can't do this job. It's just that's a lot of fun.
It just made sense for you.
Now, I had a question.
For
me. Were you ever in any big fires?
You mean when I was fighting wildland fires?
Yeah.
Oh, there was a few. Yeah.
Yeah. I was scary stuff.
Nothing in the 500,000 acre type situation, because those are usually complex fires that burn together, and there's literally thousands and thousands of people on those kinds of fires. But I did do a move up one time over to what they call a contingency move up over to Grants Pass. I had 100+ lightning strikes in one night that were on fire. So your resources are just way beyond you at that point. And a guy that I worked with, it was older than me, he was our foreman for our crew at Gold Beach. And I went over there, and it was so much fun. It was two of us in a tanker. We'd walk 5 miles into a snag fire, have to chop the snag down, then put the fire out.
The snag, I don't know what the snag means. Yeah, walk me through. I don't know what that is.
It's a tree, a dead tree. I don't know what the laws of physics are there, but it doesn't matter how far the snag is from the fire. It's always on fire.
Right, yeah, you're right.
It could be fire. Like, could be 5 miles away.
It just looks at the fire and goes, "I'm ready."
Yeah,
take me.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so we would go cut these down by hand with axes and shovels and these water baggies that they had in those days. They were just a big bag with these strategically placed straps went over your shoulder with these metal buckles that dug into your shoulder.
Okay.
So after about mile 5, you go, okay.
Could they put this anywhere more inconvenient? Awesome.
I have no idea who made them. But anyway, we'd walk in and put those all out by hand, then come back, get in the truck, and figure out what the next fire was and go to that. And so we did that day after day after day for about a week over there till we got them all out. And that was the most fun I had. Putting fires out. Right. It was a blast.
No, honestly, it's crazy because you talk about these things and you're like, oh my God, it was the funnest thing I've ever done.
I know. I'm like,
I don't think that I would do
different
that.
definitions of fun, man. I'm talking. I mean, I could do that on, I can shoot some people up, do some crazy shit on Fallout, but. Other than that,
and I like to play music and stuff, and that's fun for me. You're like, hey,
there's a raging fire.
Let me go climb the Empire State Building. Let me go put out some raging fires.
Well, you got to remember back then too. It was just like there wasn't a whole lot going on, so something like that to get your blood pumping, man. And I'm sure you're just like, oh yeah.
And you can hear fires coming. I mean, when they're coming up a hill, you don't want to be in front of it. Number one. Now, and number two, you can hear it.
Yeah. Now, okay, I got a question. What do you mean you can hear it coming? What does that mean?
Fires, if they get big enough, make their own weather. They literally change the humidity, the wind, and you've ever seen pictures of fire tornadoes and things like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those kind of rarities. That's when the wind really it's making its own weather, so to speak. Humidities drop, and when you have people who are in charge of those fires, they have a lot of experience and training on expected fire behavior. That's kind of what it's called, expected fire behavior. And you plan for that. But I can tell you as I'm sitting here, fires don't always do what they are supposed to do.
Just like the weather report around here.
But they create a noise. I mean, it's just a roar. And as it gets closer, it's really overwhelming, the noise. It's
it's intense. And what's crazy about it is it's almost like, for me, I'm trying to relate this somehow in my life, right? When I think about music, it's like a bunch of different things that my brain is doing, whether it be through my eyes, my ears, my senses. Firefighting, in a way, when you're doing that type of a thing, is almost a lot deeper than you would think it would be, right? Some people might say, well, they go and they put water on fire. No, it can be a lot deeper than that. Well, you're using a lot of senses.
Because your life is on the line.
Yeah, we used to call putting the wet stuff on the hot stuff. And firemen really are the heroes. They get all the glory. And structure fires is a whole different category. That's a whole different animal than wildland firefighting.
Okay.
But you have certain things that overlap, obviously. And if a person comes from one trade, I always, in my mind anyway, I thought this would be easy transition for me. But there is, my son-in-law is a fireman for a city of North Bend. And we razz each other. It's the cops versus firemen.
Right. Yeah. That's like an age old.
We razz each other. But when it comes down to it, those guys are just absolutely top notch. I can't give them enough. They're just amazing people.
All right. Now we're up to your police days.
Yeah. Fast forward.
Yeah, a little bit.
So decided, you know what? I'm just not going to keep doing what I have to do to put food on the table, pay the bills, and I want something I can do long term. And I had spent this time with my sister, and she said, "You're going to love this," and I did. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome too, because just me personally, I struggle with that stuff, and it, still. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love my job and it's great and all, but it's not like I'm not fulfilled, man, I went after it, I got it, I did it, I'm happy to be in this job, so I still struggle with that.
Well, I went to work there. I got through the academy. In Oregon, you have to be hired by a police department to go through the academy. There are states where you can put yourself through the academy and then get hired by a department afterwards. We are not one of those. You actually have to be employed by police department, ready to go. And in those days, it was just a mere 8 weeks. Now they're up to like 18 or something like that. Then we got back and you had field training. You rode with somebody that was a superior officer, and you rode with them for weeks until they felt like you were ready to go out on your own and, kick you out the door. And and then they'd shadow you for a while. They shadow you. It's kind of, police work's changed and our society's changed and such. But everything was gauged pretty well for me. I mean, I had good field training officers. There was great people. There wasn't a lot of promotional processes in those days because everybody was freshly seated as new sergeants and new lieutenants and new captains. So they weren't going anywhere for a while. So I was going to be on the road for a while. And I loved being on the road. I really did. I later spent almost 6 years, about 5.5 years in detectives. And
really?
I enjoyed going back to the road. I really did.
That sounds like it'd be cool.
It was going to work, just like you mentioned earlier. You're not, your job kind of gets a monotony. There is no monotony to this job.
You don't know what you're going to get.
Every day is a different day.
Right.
How you handle things can be very, by the book, but all of the circumstances that brought you there are different. And you got to learn to think on your feet, be on your, be on your feet. And of course, safety is, you want to go home at night, and you want to make sure your partners go home at night. All that training and goes into, can you as a police officer take the knowledge that you've been given and the field experience and now make judgment calls based on what you're observing right now, the totality of circumstances that are existing in front of you now. And so that's what makes a good, well-rounded officer. And as I mentioned, one of the weapons I have been talking to people in sales for a long period prior to being a police officer. So it gave me the opportunity to de-escalate issues.
It's funny you bring that up. So would you say that there's a difference between an officer who does everything by the book, or are you going to be more of somebody who does things by the book, but you have to understand that things are going to change from situation to situation?
Well, we've had officers. It's not what they say; it's how they say it.
Right. Exactly. Okay. No, it's 100% true, because I might have been pulled over by Brent before in my lifetime, but I gotta say,
I honestly don't remember it.
I'm sure I'm a dime a dozen back then, but. I did notice that about you. I mean, because to me, I get, I'm sure you deal with a lot of people on your end, but to me, hopefully I don't deal with a whole lot of police, just to be, you know what I mean? But the few that I had, I noticed right away. I'm like, wow, he's talking to me like a buddy or like a friend. And I could tell that you're like, you cared. It wasn't just, hey, this is my job, but at the same time, I'm worried about you, dude. Are you, all that kind of thing.
Are you good?
Are you,
is everything okay?
A gentleman in the police, in our department at the time, I looked up to my entire career. I really enjoyed working with this guy. He explained over the years that there is the letter of the law and there's the intent of the law. And the letter of the law is there for you in the event you need to take an action and enforce it. But is it necessarily in these circumstances? And we're given a certain amount of discretion with lower offenses. That is, some of them are mandatory arrests, like domestic assault and things like that. But do you necessarily have to enforce that law at that moment? And that's the question that officers have to look at. And there's a thing called contempt of cop. And too many newer officers do fall into that, where somebody's right in their face, they're bad whipping them and such. And if you just sit back and wait for a second and think, okay, what was my intention of this stop? The traffic stop is an example.
Right.
What was my intent here? And it was to get the person to comply. It wasn't to cite them. It wasn't to lecture them. It was to get them to comply with the ordinance or the law.
With the law.
You have to work within those bounds of what you're given in that circumstance. Now, certainly there are people who jump out of the car, just come flying at you.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're going to earn probably what they
got what they got coming.
Sure.
It is what it is.
And unfortunately, because of social media now, that's become a a big thing for people to, press that point. And I tell people all the time, your place to argue with the officer is not roadside.
No.
That's what the court's for.
Dude,
I'm not going to make an excuse for anybody, but I would say to persons that are not law enforcement and they're out in our community and they run into contact with somebody like that comes across gruff or, abrasive, understand that he may have just come from one of the worst calls in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
All of us have bad days or bad circumstances. You you might be just cruising down the road thinking life is great and you get pulled over and this cop is just in your face and you're like, what is your deal?
Like, dude, I just got away from a call where someone got murdered. Like, who knows?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that, there's those. So think about where he's coming from at the same time.
That's a good point because honestly, I've
point.
never had that, and I get that. There's probably a lot of people out there going, hey, this is their job. They got to do this and they got to do that. And and
technically they're supposed to say this.
But they are people. They are people, man. And
they're supposed to be held to a higher accountability and they're supposed to be more well-trained and keep that under control. But again, everybody has their button they get pushed and they could just roll up. This might be the third time that this person's been pulled over for the same thing and he's not getting it and the officer comes up and says to him, okay, third time, this is enough, and the guy's like, what are you yelling at me for?
Right. It's like, well, this is the third time I've pulled you over for this, bro.
When I was training our newer guys, when I was in that section of our department and I was doing some of the training, I used to let guys know that 90% of the public want laws. They want to be left alone. They just want to do their job. They want to come to and from. They're worried about their bills. They're worried about everything else. But they don't. We as police officers rely on the fact that they want laws and they want to obey the law and do what they're supposed to do. Because I'm only going to meet some of those community members on a traffic stop. I'm going in a community home. They say, I lived here my whole life and I've never been stopped. Okay, well, today is your day. I meet you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But the fact of the matter is if I just educate him about what he did and he moves on, I'm probably never going to see him again. We rely on the fact that everybody wants to behave and wants to follow the law.
Right.
Otherwise, we just have chaos.
Yeah, you just have whatever you want to do.
We're constantly, on the other hand, we're dealing with that 10% repeat offenders.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Kind of.
They're the untouchables. They just don't care.
I can speed and go 80, but I don't want anybody else doing that one.
Yeah, and so you're dealing with that smaller group. But when we do respond, as you mentioned, it's not always for, gee, we wanted you over for dinner. We needed to stop and that's not it. We're here because we're having whatever disagreement type situation. Right. So we're not responding to the fun stuff all the time.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when then to drag it even further, when you do respond to a family issue, let's say there's a lot of yelling and screaming by the adults involved, the children are there observing all this.
Oh, I'm sure.
And you become the bad guy in their eyes.
Yeah.
And so you have to try to mitigate the circumstances that you're there for in their eyes. You address them, you talk with them as much as you can too, to let them know that, you're there to make them safe and make everybody safe at the same time. And so it's rough today.
So, yeah.
So how long have you been in the police force?
I retired at 26 and a half years.
Okay, 26 and a half years.
That was enough.
He said I'd had it.
I was 63 and I was still fighting people on the street, physically fighting people at 63. Right. I might have been given a gift of health, but how long is, are you going to hold on? Because the longer you do that job, the odds of something more tragic catching up with you increases. That I needed to move on at that point, go into another chapter. So, and I've been enjoying that. Ever since I retired, I've been.
We've been enjoying you too, man. He's come out to shows. And, we love you, Brent, man. Yeah. It's been awesome having you around too. So we're very thankful for that. But yeah, man. And like I said, I'm sure you got some doozies that you've been through.
That's what I was.
You wanted some stories.
I do. Yeah. I want a little meat.
Yeah. Let me pick out one.
And actually, but before we get into the story, I'm curious. because I don't plan on joining the police force anytime soon.
Sure.
Okay. Somebody might, right? And they're like, hey, in their head, they're like, well, I just kind of pull people over and it's just going to be an easy day, right? Now, now some other people might be like, no, dude, I'm really getting in this because I'm trying to find the bad guys.
Yeah.
I really want to find those things. What kind of mindset do you have to have walking in there?
That's a really good question. And people ask me many, many times, they say, how do I get into police work? And I tell them, go be a fireman.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. My son-in-law would love that. But, again, they put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. They're always the heroes, and as cops, no, we're not. It's just, we're necessary evils. But I always hear people say, we need you, but, go away. when people have said, truthfully, if they've said, how do I have my grandson wants to be a cop, and I tell them, have them go try it on. There are Explorer programs. Most departments have a reserve program. So if you're in the reserves or 21 and older, you can carry a firearm. You actually go get training. You go through the same in different levels. Eventually, after a couple of years of being in reserve, we had several reserves that were out on their own, helping out with all kinds of things, transports, the whole gambit. Go out and try it on. Go do some ride-alongs. Become an explorer.
Gotcha.
Get your toe wet a little bit at a time until you're up to your knee and you go, this is too cold for me.
This isn't something I want to do.
That was what I was going to ask. So they still do that then? You can still do ride-alongs and things like that?
Most departments still have ride-along programs. I can't. I've been out of for 2.5 years. So you'd have to ask the local departments. You have OSP, which I don't believe do any ride-alongs. The sheriff's department may allow spouses, but Coos Bay had a ride-along program for a while. North Bend had a ride-along program. You go in, you sign your life away, and say, if I die, you're not going to sue me.
Right.
Okay.
They do a background check to make sure you're not some, Soviet, spy.
Yeah. Some risky, ready to go at it.
Did the police work here? So anyway, it just kind of ease into it to find out. It's kind of like I did. I literally rode with my sister for multiple years.
It wasn't, hey, today I'm going to be an officer.
Yeah,
it
and
was,
you said
hey,
that she was a probation officer, right? So
she'd gone from being a probationary officer, which actually plays into one of the stories I was going to tell you. It's pretty funny. Anyway, she was a deputy down there for 5 years, and then she went to Oregon State Police for the last 16 and a half years of her career. She retired, and she was in Medford at the Central Point office. She's 2 years younger than me. She passed away 2.5 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Of Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's.
Oh man,
sorry.
Yeah, it was
that's
way unexpected. Yeah, I always figured we'd be in our 80s swapping lies and telling stories, but it wasn't to be. And she rode with me, to the end, and she's with me every day. So
awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
So give us the goods on this one. Yeah,
So,
tell us your sister's story here.
Yeah, well,
He's breaking out the glasses, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
This is like Pokemon, right? When he flips the hat
He
around.
told you he was born in '60, bro. Come on, now, give him a minute.
So it was so funny. My sister called me one night, and we would call each other when we had pretty exotic calls. Mm-hmm. And she calls me and she goes, "Oh, you're not going to believe what happened." And I said, "Okay." Yeah, so I break out the popcorn and off we go. And at this time, the first 2 years of your OSP assignment, you're assigned to where OSP puts you. And then you can choose where you want to go after that. Well, and her assignment was in Newport. And she was what she used to affectionately call poaching. She'd be in the city limits. Looking
I think that's all they do now.
I'm sorry, I don't even know what that means, but okay.
That means
she was looking for ne'er-do-well people looking
inside city limits instead of trooping,
out on the highways.
Out on the highways.
Gotcha.
Like when
gotcha.
That's like 90% of what I see pulling people over are the troopers. So it's like, what are you doing? Go on the highways.
Right.
Yeah. So she heads down to Waldport to cover a sheriff's deputy who is in pursuit of an escapee in a stolen vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And she's about 4.5 miles behind the deputy as a cover officer. And she's running warp, as they can, and lights and sirens. She gets to Waldport. And the trooper the deputy is now up in the woods. And Waldport is kind of situated at a big Y. You got the river that goes up, and then you got the ocean 101, and up behind that is all these hills of roads and such. And he was up on one of those roads, and he's trying to describe the roads he's on, what number he's on, etc. So back up and
dirt and trees,
like,
man.
There's 3 trees here, and there's 5 over on this side, bro. Like, I don't know, bro.
So she literally runs code 4 times back and forth through Waldport, trying to get to the road, whether it was going to be up the river or off of 101, which was going to be closer, because this guy kept switching back and forth up in the woods.
Yeah. He's
so
on
the deputy was calling it out, play by play, and finally the guy terminates on a landing way up in the top of nowhere, and she finds her way up there and finds a vehicle there, the sheriff's deputy's vehicle, running, door open, nobody around. And so she's looking and she's doing what she needs to do for safety and stuff, and determines through the foot tracks and stuff that they'd gone over this landing down into this canyon.
Oh boy.
And so she's yelling down, and she finally gets a reply out of him. There's no radio contact. You can't get a radio out of that canyon.
Gotcha.
Anyway, he indicates to her that he was hurt, but he wasn't shot, and he had the guy in custody.
Nice.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
So the rest of the war party was showing up at that point to join in, and they end up getting this guy out of the canyon, but they had to help the deputy out because he had literally tore his hamstring so bad that he ended up being on light duty for over a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it was. But he took this guy into custody. So
wow, yeah, mission accomplished, dude. Way to take one for the team.
So she gets the guy in the back of the car, and remember, this is an escapee out of one of the prisons in Oregon. Reads him his rights, he's in custody, and asks for identification. He says, "It's in my pocket." And he says, "Okay." So she reaches down, takes it out of his back pocket. He's handcuffed in the back of the car, and she looks at it, and I'm not going to say the guy's name.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
That's okay.
But it sounds like Dragon Barbell.
Nice.
And in fact, when I tell you the name off air, you'll say, "Yeah, that's it."
Yeah.
Anyway, she goes, "You're not him." He goes, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I know him. He used to be on my parole and probation down in Brookings, Oregon, and you're not him." What are the chances of that, right?
Nice.
So the stolen ID he has in his pocket was on her parole and probation.
Oh, wow.
So she knows the guy, right? Anyway, so all said and done, they get the guy. So she's telling me this whole story about having this ID with this guy. You can't make this up. Then the very next night, I'm out here on Tremont Avenue, just north of the casino.
Okay.
And I'm in that entrance, that north entrance right there. And I'm just there, visible with my parking lights on, trying to get traffic to slow down, being highly visible. Because you can't stop everybody. I mean,
You're right.
come on, you don't want to just get people to slow down. And I look down the railroad, and here's 2 guys walking up the rails. Well, they had just changed the laws in Oregon where if you were walking on a utility or railroad, there was a trespass 1 in Oregon.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Is that still a thing?
could be.
Oh, man.
It was when I
could be.
left.
I'm not
Some of you bands out there, you better get off those tracks. Quit taking photos.
So here they come, and it's dark out, and I put a spotlight on them as they come up onto the pavement, and I got out of my driver's door, and they were still staring at the spotlight, so I walked up behind them. They had no idea it was behind them.
Oh.
And I come up behind them and scared them to death, of course. And
Yeah.
made them sit down, give me their IDs, and then one guy says, "I don't have any idea. It was stolen." And I said, "What's your name?" He goes, "Dragon Barbell." And I go, "No way." I said, "You know what? I think I'm inclined to actually believe you."
Yeah, you're like, I actually do believe you, sir.
I think you did get your ID stolen.
I know where your ID. I know where your ID is at.
That's crazy.
He actually got a kick out of it. He thought it was pretty funny that this guy, but he didn't know the guy at all. But how it just to have that name pop up 2 nights in a row,
Wow.
between a brother and a sister in 2 different communities.
Wow, what are the odds?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was just
Crazy.
Yeah. Another one involving her was we had a house across from the police department, which for a long time was a problem child, and we had people go in and out, and it was always
You would think it would be
You're right across from me.
No. See, I think opposite. I'm like, no, you know what? They'll leave me alone.
Right. Oh, right.
I'm right next to them.
Yeah.
Right in front
They
of
got
their
other
face.
stuff to do.
Yeah.
And we know when the cat's away, so we're going to play.
Yo, that's true, too. They're scoping. Yup, bro, only one deputy. Let's go.
Me. In fact, hopefully this story doesn't talk about me because I might have been there.
No, there was a female who I had multiple run-ins over a period of probably a year and a half, and I had multiple cases against her, and some of them were pretty serious theft cases, but warrants had come out for arrest, and she hadn't showed up to court, and that's why the warrants were out. And,
Okay.
And I hadn't seen her for a while, and so my sister calls me up. She goes, "You're not going to believe this." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I will." And she's downtown again in Newport and on the waterfront. And she says, just out of nowhere, this woman, half dressed, runs across in front of my patrol car and dives in the bay.
You're like, okay.
Okay, that's different at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't see that every day, right?
Not at 2 o'clock in the morning
so she
now.
gets out, and the female's still swimming. She had swam over this boat and right near a mooring on a dock. So by then,
ma'am, get out of the water.
Well, yeah, because you're not getting in there, right? I mean, your sister's not getting in there either.
No. You got 34 pounds of gear on. You're not going
yeah.
anywhere.
You're like,
but think how cold the water would have been.
Oh my gosh, right?
And so they got her out of the water, got some blankets around her, and they run her ID, and she's got warrants out of our community, my warrants. And so she doesn't know my sister name or anything. She just goes and they put her in the patrol car and they're taking her down to the jail. And she gets to the jail in the Sally Port and opens up the door. And the whole time she was complaining about me. I've been moved out of the community because I didn't like this guy. And she's mentioning me by name.
okay.
My sister is having just a.
You could have gotten any other police officer's car, but no.
She goes, "I don't care what you do. Do not take me down there to jail. I'm not going." And so she's, "Well, you're going to."
She's like, "I'm taking you straight to Brent."
Yeah,
I'm taking you straight to him.
it's almost as good. She finally, like I said, she complained for the 20-minute car ride there about me, and she gets out of the car, and then she looks at the gal and she reaches down, taps her name badge, and she goes, "My brother says hi."
Nice.
And of course, she was bouncing off the roof by that point.
Nice.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is
Nice.
hilarious. What are the odds? That is so
Yeah,
nice.
and she calls me up. She says, "Why don't you keep your people when you
Right, yeah.
keep my people?"
Yeah, why don't you
You're
handle
like,
your own,
I
bro?
try. I don't know what to tell you.
But we had some fun war stories and stuff like that over the years. But
That's awesome.
Nice.
Again, some of these things you can't.
You can't make them
Oh,
up.
I'm sure, man. The crazies, dude.
No,
Sometimes.
I told you in my early years I had some really fun guys that I was training. They turned out to be just wonderful cops down the road.
Nice.
They're probably close to retiring at this point. But anyway, one of them, he just had a funny sense of humor, and you could kind of take advantage of him a little because he was, trying to do everything absolutely perfect, and he didn't want anything, none of his T's, not crossed, and none of his I's not dotted. And he was always really paranoid about screwing up, and so we pulled up to Pony Village in the parking lot just off of Virginia, and at that time there was a Safeway. The old Safeway was in that center right there. It's not where the new Safeway is.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a few years back. Anyway, so
A few. Okay. All right.
anyway,
Continue.
there was a guy that was ripping off soda. Now they stored all the soda out front in cases. They just left it outside. They didn't
really?
take it inside.
Oh.
Or anything. It wasn't. It was
See,
unsecured.
somebody had to go and ruin it.
Yeah, I had to go run it. And so we get it there, and this guy was packing off some soda, and somebody saw him and called him in. So I showed up there with my new guy, and I just let my new guy handle it. And so he went over there and
Get the soda, dude.
yeah. Don't forget the soda.
Yeah, please. I'm parched.
He goes through everything perfectly, and the guy says, "I don't have any ID on me." He says, "But my name is such and such," and he rattled off way too quick. And I'm sitting there going, all my brain and everything, I'm reading this guy, and it's like, no, there's no way this guy's name's that.
Yeah. Right.
And I looked at him, and I just let my guy struggle for a while. And finally, I just piped up, and I said, "Listen," I said, "anybody who's your age is in a computer system somewhere. They have ID. Okay, you don't get to be your age without having ID somewhere in the United States. So where is yours? And, oh, no. So I looked at my new guy, pulled him off to the side. By this time, we had another cover officer there. And we had, because this guy was kind of fidgeting around for officer safety, we had detained him. And to make him safe and us safe, make sure he's not reaching for something stupid.
Yeah.
And I told my new guy, I said, listen, you don't know who this guy is. I said he could be a wanted murderer out of New York.
Right.
You know,
right. You
just
don't
off
know.
the cuff. I said, and I said, so all said and done. Okay. We get done. We find out who he was. He had a warrant out of New York as a witness to a homicide.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
He looks at me and goes, how'd you know that? And I said, I didn't know. He was
Like,
from
I
New
didn't
York.
know.
I was
Yeah,
just using it as an example. But
You're like, well, when you're on the job this long, you got a sixth sense.
Well,
of
no, in a way, seriously, that's a real thing, though.
Yeah,
like you can
but just-
sniff that stuff out.
But just
bro.
the for instance, though, that it happened to be New York.
I told him, I said, this could be a murderer from New York. And I was close. He was a witness to a
You're
murder.
like, I was
so
90%
close.
there.
Yeah, so close.
So, yeah, he was a material witness. And had a
I didn't have that on my bingo card, but damn.
we actually, on a side note to that, on a different case, we found a gun that had been used in a homicide in the late 60s. When New York finally got enough of their files digitized, it landed into the LEDs NCIC, all the numbers run through, and they're called delayed hits. If a number comes back that you've already run, it's like, oh, you ran this number? Okay, well, we are looking for it now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
All right.
so we ended up, our evidence technician had to bundle that thing up and send it to New York, but it was a late 60s homicide. I don't remember the specific
Crazy.
date, but yeah.
That is crazy.
He's like, you know what? I'm going to the other coast.
Yeah.
They're not going to find me there.
It wasn't affiliated with that guy, though.
Well,
So-
way back in the day, I mean, some of that stuff you can just cross county lines and,
Right.
Well, and that's another thing too. Like way back in the day, they didn't have everything that they have nowadays. Nowadays,
no
everything's all
DNA,
tracked. Yeah,
no,
dude,
none of
it's
that,
like it's
man.
totally different to where cases get brought up. Like, oh, we didn't solve this 50 years ago. What do we have now that can maybe solve it? And all of a sudden, you figure it out.
well, murder doesn't have any statute of limitations on it.
Negative, not in any state that I know of. Of course, a lot of people, when you asked earlier, why do you get into police work? Well, yeah, there's a lot of adrenaline there. You get into situations every day, and then there's the rewards. It brings you right down. Adrenaline, it just goes right out. It's got to do the report. But, some of those reasons to get into police work is that they call them adrenaline junkies, but it's just the constant energy that you have to bring to the job. And most of our shifts were either 10 or 12-hour shifts. So, by the end of the day, you are spent.
Oh, I'm sure.
But part of those included, of course, everybody's favorite car chases.
Yeah.
And
I like a good car chase.
Yeah.
you ever been in a car chase?
I've been in lots of car
I was gonna
chases.
say.
Oh, okay, give me one. Come on,
yeah,
let's go, Brent. Give me one.
So one of them was not too far from here, at the North Bend Airport.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we get called that there, several of us, respond because the airport now at that particular point had reached a level where security was maximum on everything.
Yeah.
Because once they board a plane there, they don't have to go through screening again at other airports.
Right.
And they can fly to other, and so you have to have maximum security on your airport. And that's so ours does. And we had to have minimum response times to the airport. And in this particular case, female, had jumped the fence into the interior of the airport.
Can't do that.
Jumps into a vehicle belonging to the airport and was driving it around on the airport. So
Like on the tarmac?
Yeah, on the tarmac.
Yeah, my job was already dropped. I'm like, what?
Inbound flight. Yeah. So now remember, when we practice our high-speed maneuvering and driving, we practice on the airport. So we're on home turf here.
Yeah, you're like,
okay.
you picked our home field, baby. What are you doing?
So here comes the chief and the captain. They're coming through one gate, and there's a bunch of us coming through the other one. And I look over and I see they have information. Obviously, I don't, because I didn't hear that this person hadn't been stopped or detained, but they were flying code at this point. So I'm thinking, okay, well, they know something I don't. So I get on radio, and sure enough, this person was still at large on the tarmac. So we eventually catch up to her, and
Little pit maneuver.
we go up and down we're trying not to hurt anything. Equipment, people.
Gotcha. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I see that all the time in videos.
And we're trying to get up the airport, and believe it or not, our airport has two ends to it. It doesn't go on forever.
Right.
Like a roadway. And this girl was she would do 85, 90 down the strip, and then she'd come into the end. She'd make a slow turn.
And then go again.
And then we go back down the airport, and
yeah, we could do this all day.
So our plan between all of us eventually, after lap 2 on this, was to try to get a car in front of her and slow her down without getting hit, and box her in to get her to slow down and continually slow down to the point where now she can't go anywhere unless she rams you, of course. At this point. But we had time. We had the area. It was a contained area. We had the manpower, so time was on our side in that one. And the chief's making the calls. He's right there with us, doing this.
Right.
And I was driving one of the new Dodges, and it had the V8 in it with the dual torque curve.
Oh
yeah. And
you got to be able.
There
to
was no
catch
problem.
Those supercars, man.
It was no problem catching this pickup truck.
Pickup truck.
So we got her slowed down, and we were headed east on the airport at this point. We just made the turn on the west end. We're starting up but now she's on the taxiway, not the takeoff strip. She's on that side strip on the south side.
Okay.
And it has a road that goes uphill and through a gate. It's an entranceway onto the airport.
Okay.
Well, she decided she's going to take that.
Okay.
Nice.
It did not work out well. She missed the exit, went over
no.
the top of a ditch, a ravine, landed the car or the truck in this swamp, willows, and
she's done.
And
you're toast.
So
Did you get out and run? Did you have to run?
Oh no, she got out of the truck. She stood, and we ordered her to get out of the vehicle and come to us. She wasn't doing that. She wasn't complying.
Of course not. You're coming in the swamp.
And she did. I went over there. I waited in and grabbed her, and we brought her out and put her in handcuffs and took her off of that. So it ended well. There was damage to the vehicle, but nobody got hurt. And that was a good thing. Another instance was I came onto work, and I was on a graveyard shift. There was an attempt to locate on a van that had been stolen from the hospital, and the person was potentially armed and had felony warrants. The person who called it and said, "It's my van. I know this guy. I know," and he took my van. So I said, "Okay, fine. I'm going to go out and I'm going to go find this van." So just one of those. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I jump in the car, and I figure there was some information that the person may be headed to Lakeside or Reedsport. So I thought, okay, pinch point at the bridge. So I go up to the bridge and I wait, and sure enough, here comes that van.
No way. Right on.
So I radio that I'm following the vehicle, and we follow it over the top, and I turn my lights on the south end of the bridge, and it yields on to what would be East Bay Drive.
Okay.
The entrance to East Bay Drive, that area. I radio for backup. I just waited because he's a felon.
Right.
Potentially armed. He's a stolen vehicle. You're going to wait for your cover. And so I opened the door, and I stood behind, just behind the door in case I had to make a maneuver or whatever. I'm just trying to do a good officer safety. Got plenty of time here because he's not. And all of a sudden I see the front wheel turn out.
It's like he's going to pull off.
Oh yeah, that's going to.
Oh yeah.
So here we go. And so I called the sergeant. I said, okay, he's headed northbound. And he said, as long as speeds don't get over 80, go ahead. Well, it's raining. It's only Coos Bay style.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's coming down. And I'm following him, and he is in a Plymouth van that's held together with duct tape.
Duct tape, baler wire. Nice.
And so I didn't really want to push him too hard, so I kept backing off of him as much as I could. In fact, there were times when I was easily a quarter mile behind him, trying to get him to slow down. And, I was going to follow him, but I wasn't going to just push him.
Yeah. Exactly.
He wasn't going to stop. He was going to keep going. And so Reedsport was getting ready at this point, and I figured, okay, right where the rock walls at Reedsport, it's a pinch point.
Yeah.
It's a perfect place to do a tax strip. And so as I come out of Winston, I look up there, and sure enough, there's a police car sitting right there by the engine. I'm thinking, here we go, And We just drive right on through, and this cop's just standing there looking at everybody. And I was like, what in the world? And he was blocking a road, so he couldn't take that back way in, but they didn't.
Oh, you're like, but
no
throw,
tax,
but you're like, but throw
no.
the throw the thing out, bro.
Throw the tax strip. So no, there was a deputy.
He didn't go on my road. Doggone it.
So at this point, I'm a little bewildered, but as we're continuing on into Reedsport, it widens up right there in front of the school where you're like 5 lanes now.
Yeah.
Yes. Center lane. And then you're coming into that light. Well, I had backed way off so that he would try to slow down again, and he was continuing his speed. Well, there was a deputy, a Reedsport deputy, a Douglas County deputy there, and she waited till the last minute and threw the spike strips, and he hit one of the strips with one tire. It threw it up in the air. I mean, literally threw it up in the air and comes down right in front of my car.
And you got hit.
And both tires on one side are gone. So
man,
I'm out. I'm tagging out at this point. Well, little did I know he'd continued on and passed a camper van or a truck with a camper on it. Excuse me. And he just went right up the side of that thing. Just totaled up the whole side of that truck and camper.
Oh man!
And by this time, I had other units behind me coming, including one of ours, and we took my spare tire and his spare tire out, put them on, and now I got a whole car again now. And I'm like, yes,
I'm back, baby.
Yeah. But we'd had a canine unit at a Coos Bay there, and he and I eventually, along with OSP, find the van up at Gardner, and there was an old abandoned motel up there in Gardner, and he'd parked that van back in out of the way there and bailed and took off up into the neighborhood. And remember, it's raining. It's really cold out. It's probably 40 out, and then raining like crazy, and hail and sleet. And I thought, this dog is no way going to find this thing. And we wandered for almost 2 hours looking for this guy. And finally, we get back, and we're like, oh, we can't find him. He's gone, And so I made the comment to the canine officer. I said, it's cold enough out here, and he'd be stupid enough, he'd probably come back and get in the van. That's exactly what he did.
Right?
About 20 minutes later, the officer went up for the van, and he was in the van.
Nice.
He got cold. And
it's like it's cold out there, guys.
Yeah. So I turn around and come back and pick him up and take him all the way back to Coquille.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah. How funny.
Nice.
This one involves a family member. My mother-in-law married a gentleman that she knew in high school. Both of their spouses had passed away, and they reconnected, and they were sweethearts in high school, and they got remarried. His name was Wes, and Wes, to see Wes, he's the most wonderful human being I've ever met in my life. He's just absolutely, just a great man. He owned a big cement company in Tucson, Arizona, had lots of money, but to see him and look at him, he looked like somebody right out of the New York mob.
Oh yeah, nice.
Okay. So
break his legs.
At this time, we used to do a lot of foot patrols in downtown Coos Bay, and one of our local ne'er-do-wells, who was trying to go legit at this point, had rented a space downtown and had put in a little store of just wood stuff, just lots of wood, and he was trying to sell wood. Okay, well, that's fine. You're doing legit. He's trying to do his own thing. And I was encouraging him. Well, my father-in-law, who was down here visiting us on his own, just walks in. I wasn't with him at the time. He walks in there, and he sees a 300-pound redwood burl that he wants. And he was he collected some really eclectic stuff.
Oh.
A lot of Southwestern art and things of this nature. He lived in Arizona. But he wanted this redwood burl for his family room in Arizona. And he had that time like an 20,000 square foot house. I mean, I got room,
Yeah.
So
put that in the east wing.
Remember, I'd had plenty of run-ins with this gentleman that owned the store, and he had no idea that I was related to this guy at all. And they, over 2 days, make a deal on it. And my father-in-law had gone back and, it's just too much money. I'm not going to spend that. And finally, he gets him to refinish it for half the price he was originally asking for it. And the kid says, I'll take it home. Well, he lived in those apartments that I was telling you about earlier across from the police department, over there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In one of the basements down there. So he took this 300-pound burro into the basement, and all night long he shot it with lacquer and turned on every heater that he had and borrowed a few in this room. So when we showed up to pick it up, it's supposed to be dry. He opened the door. I thought it was going to be like a flashover explosion. There was so much. So we ended, long story short, we get it loaded up, and we eventually ship it down to his house. Well, I'm down on foot patrol again, downtown, and he sees me, and he comes out and he goes, hey, is that guy related to you? I said, yeah, it's my father-in-law. He kind of looks over his shoulder both ways. He goes, is that guy a mob guy? He wore sunglasses, and I'm not kidding you. If you looked at him, you go, yeah, he's mob.
Yeah.
Anyway, I go, hey. I said, we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Nice.
Hey,
nice.
we don't talk about that stuff.
He goes,
Yeah.
I knew that guy was mobbed up. I knew it.
I knew it.
And I just told him, I said, listen, we don't talk about it. We just leave it alone. He's out on the West Coast now. We just leave that stuff alone, okay? And I said, if I were you, I would too. And it's probably a good thing you dropped that price on that thing. You know? But anyway, this kid, from that point forward, I never, ever had a problem with that kid. From that point forward, he eventually moved out of the area. But from that time, I was like, hi, Officer Gaither, how are you?
Nice.
Right. Well, and that just shows you, like the way that you handle and approach that situation, being funny, building a rapport with these people is better than just being like,
gosh, you got it.
what are you talking about? Oh, no, he's not mob, blah, blah, blah. It's like, nah.
Yeah,
we don't talk about that, man.
Well, I'm gonna relate one serious one for you, just real quick.
Yeah, no,
good.
Kudos out to the department and the guys that work there.
Yes, absolutely.
Still work there. The bridge is a nightmare. North Bend Bridge is.
okay.
Our chief, he says, I never really knew how much of a problem that thing was until I lived here.
Yeah.
But it is, and it's a magnet, and we get called there weekly for many types of things, include the unfortunate suicides.
Suicides.
Right? Yeah, so we get called up there, and I get up there, I make the whole run across, I don't see anything, I come back, and right in the middle of the superstructure on the west side, I see this person. So I immediately get out, turn on the lights, get traffic stopped. I take up as much of the roadway as I could.
Right.
Yeah.
And my partner who was working with me comes up on the bridge, and he's right there with me about the time we get out. And I go over there, and I don't want to approach him too fast, but he's on the outside of the superstructure.
Oh.
And he's in a there's a permanent work basket there. And we just kind of casually talk with him for a little while. And we tried to just let one person talk. Yeah. And of course, you don't want to make any quick movements in it. But
Exactly.
He told me, he says, I'm jumping. I don't care what you say. I'm going. It's like, okay, there's a commitment. So,
Yeah.
Now, stature-wise, this guy is he's not fat, but he's like 6'2", maybe 280.
Okay.
So he's got a little more on than I'm used to.
He's big boned.
Yeah.
And my partner, I kind of look at each other, and this had worked twice for me on the bridge, so I figured, well, I might as well try it and see if it happens. So as I'm gaining a little bit of rapport, and he's actually talking with me, he's kind of wrapped his arm around the outside cable of this work box. And I said, my name's Brent, what's yours? And I stuck my hand out to shake his hand. And he put his hand out and shook my hand.
No, he did.
He did. And I grabbed his
I was
arm
gonna
at
say.
that point, and I pulled him over the edge, pulled his arm over the edge of the cement railing there, and I locked it down. That was my job from that point on.
Yeah, you're like, you're not moving, bro. This is not happening.
My partner, God bless him, he was trying to grab a hold of this guy that's bigger than he is, and he's trying to pull him over, and he's fighting us. He's determined to fly off this thing, because several times during our conversation, I thought we were just going to see him go.
Yeah.
Over, and your worst nightmare come live. And about that time, there's a God when an ambulance crew shows up and goes, hey, you need help?
Yes, sir. Yes, we do.
Yeah, all of you out here, come on. So they all get out, and then we had one more police officer had showed up. So between 3 police officers and a couple of ambulance people, we were able to get this guy back over the edge of onto the bridge, and And they couldn't
Football
transport
player.
him. They were en route to a call north of the bridge, so they couldn't actually transport him. We had to wait for another ambulance to come up onto the bridge to transport him to the hospital.
You're like, whatever. We got him on lockdown. This dude's not. Yeah.
And he kind of broke down at that point. It was over.
Yeah, he probably opened up at that point.
But for initially for my partner, and I won't mention him. He knows who he is.
Yeah.
He just kind of kept looking at me like, this is real. I said, yeah, it's real. It's a real thing.
Right.
And, so it was, that was just, I had done that many times over the years, but that was just before I left. Wow. I wanted to give kudos to the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Total kudos. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed all of my years there. I will tell you that. Absolutely. And I miss some of it. I don't miss politics or reports.
Right.
I always tell people that all the time. But there's parts of that I miss. I miss the camaraderie with the guys, hanging out at 6 in the morning and trying to get the sleep out of your eyes and figure out your game plan for the day. I miss some of that. But I'm at a point. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to have to make this change in my life now. I'm too old to do this job anymore effectively and physically fight these guys on the road.
Right.
And I did the best I could for 26 years, made a difference. And as I told other guys coming up, I told them, I said, listen, there were guys committing crimes, guys making arrests, people going to jail, and before I got here. And I said, there's going to be a lot of that while I'm here. And when I leave, there's going to be guys committing crimes. You're going to be making arrests and taking people to jail. I said, so do what you can while you're here. Do the best you can. But you're going to make a mistake.
Well, it's like the mail. It's never going to stop.
Yeah,
but you do what you can.
Yeah.
And you're going to make a mistake. You're not going to be perfect, but
you're going to try to minimize those mistakes.
As much as you can. Yes.
Yeah. So, the good thing is body cams did come out during my tenure there. The public demanded them. They really became, for the most part, our friends. Because as you've seen over, you see so many times where people are yelling, "You did this, you did that."
Well,
clearly it didn't happen. So,
no, it's actually better for you guys, in my opinion.
Yeah. I want to kind of leave our conversation tonight by saying this. It's still the most honorable profession out there. People don't believe me when I say that, but when you have an entire country full of people willing to do this on their time, possibly not come home, and they get paid half of what some other professions do. And they get shot at to keep you safe. They do it because it's the honorable thing to do, and particularly on the onset of body cams and more good policies in departments now. You can't tell me out there anywhere where there's a group of, let's say, teachers. I'm not picking on them.
Okay, go ahead.
Doctors,
floor layers,
attorneys, politicians, anybody that wears a body cam.
Oh yeah.
And once a week, their supervisor goes over the videos and goes, "Hey,
oh shit! If I had to wear a body cam, bro, I would be
on every
Think about
we're not doing that.
Think about every contact those professions have to make.
Right.
It would be visible.
Oh my
Obviously,
God.
there's an attorney, but the point being is that all of those professions aren't as accountable.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
Yeah. No, you're literally under the microscope all the time.
Yeah.
It is. And so all these guys that pull this off every day go home.
And
hats off to them. That's why I wanted to do this podcast too. It was like a lot of people think, well, we've done a lot of musicians and stuff. So it was just a pleasure to have you today, Brent.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to
enjoyed it.
Shine a light on you.
You're a great person. And we're a great officer, right? And there's a lot of people, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but there's a lot of people who are like, man, I don't like the police, right? Dude, you guys
don't
are
like
doing
being busted on your shit.
Yeah,
that's what you don't like.
you guys are, like you said, you're under scrutiny at all time, and you guys are good people, and you're doing the best you can for. There's people that might get paid more, and you're watched all the time. I mean, you're just doing your best, and
well, and you mentioned before the podcast started too to us outside that you've had your windows shot out and you've had stuff like that. I mean, some of that stuff can even follow these guys home, and that's
true. Yeah.
So why would I continue to do that? Because
it's a need, and somebody.
Drive. It's a drive. You talk to guys who've done this as a career, and it really is a drive. you feel like, gosh, I want to go make more of a difference. I want to make more. But
Right.
They say, how do you go home and deal with it? Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to really compartmentalize a lot of the stuff that went on and go home and try to be the best husband and best father I could and leave all that at work and come back when they say, well, that's a good analogy. No, I did it.
Yeah.
You just have to make that actual step and take it and say, no, I'm leaving that there. You know, I took my vest off at home, took my uniform off at home, and it was, family time. And so we live in a country, fortunately, that we can do that. We live in the best country in the world. And there are countries that are near police state. We don't live in one. There's a lot of police out there, and you might think that you live in a police state. You do not. You don't even come close. A real police state, all you got to do is look outside our borders a little bit, and you'll understand that we live in a really blessed society. Yeah. And, I hope it stays that way. That law and order maintains, regardless of political affiliation. I wish the best for all officers out there, including our local ones we have here that I know a lot of them. You got to have this communication with your dispatchers, and I didn't want to leave them out of this conversation because the dispatchers are the lifeblood for us when we are doing our job in the field. They are absolutely, if they don't know where you're at and they don't know what you're doing, you're in trouble. Right. And so I want to,
and they handle a lot of stuff too. I mean, they even take stuff off your plate. Like, I got this. We don't need an officer.
They triage so much stuff.
They do.
They take so much. The drawback for them, and I always told them this, is sometimes they don't get to see how things end. When we see something end, we put them in cuffs, we put them in the car. They don't get to see any of that. They don't have any conclusion to the end of their story they're dealing with. And so it takes a special person to be there in the dispatch there. So I want to, send out a thank you to all of them. They do a great job. They're not just cops out there. They're a team.
It takes a team, man. Yep, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, you got the guy calling the plays.
That's it.
Yeah, for real.
All right, last quick thing. Brent's life looks like moving into retirement. And give me some positive notes. Let's see what you got. What to talk about Brent's life moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I live on an acre of property. There's always something to do on that. So I have family that lives a very short distance from me, and they're
right across the street.
Okay.
And as I showed you earlier, I was completing a project with them.
Yes.
And so when you own property, you always got a project. So there's that. But I was just talking with my wife while we came in tonight. We were planning some of our vacations and things. And it's nice just sometimes when you just don't feel like getting out of bed, you go, I don't
have to get out of bed.
I'm not digging this today. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And she's so cool. I love your wife. Yeah. She's such a great gal.
I always tell people, if you don't get along with my wife, you have the problem.
Yeah. There's something wrong with you, bro.
No doubt, because she's so awesome to be around.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd be without her. She's just amazing.
I don't either. I think you'd be they'd probably be calling on you, sir.
Yeah.
and you got kids? How many kids you got?
I have two of my own, and one has 3 boys and the other has 2 girls.
Oh, okay. So you have a lot of grandkids.
Yeah, so I have a boy and a girl, and
what a beautiful life. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got 5 grandkids, and they're all in the community, and so we spend a lot of time going back and forth with helping with those situations. My wife still works 2 days a week at her decision, and
it's probably just to get away from you, Brent.
She's like, I don't want to believe that.
She's like, we had a good system. You were on calls all the time, 12 hours a day. I said, I need a couple days.
It's like, honey, have you seen this face? How can you walk out on this face?
Nice. She's like, oh no, I have, sir. Yeah,
gotta go.
Yeah, bye. Beep beep. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Brent. We really appreciate you, man. And
thanks for the invite.
And you are a hero, man.
You are.
We really. Yeah, I learned a lot today, so this is great. I'm super stoked that we had you on, man. This is awesome. So
I agree.
Max and Kev with Behind the Bay. Brent Gaither, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next time.
Peace out, guys.